Welcome to Insight into Iceland. This is my recap series for the 2021 Mid-Season Invitational. Day one is in the books, May 6th. We had 6 games, and I just want to do a daily recap of kind of what happened and mostly focus in the video on my takeaways from them. I'm doing a written version of Insight into Iceland as well, where I've got the recap of each game, the team comps, who won, and one tweet-sized kind of bit of information about what I thought of the game. So you can check that out, the written version on the site. But in terms of some takeaways from today, I thought there were a few things that were kind of interesting. On the whole, the level of play wasn't the highest. It wasn't terrible, and I'm not like super disappointed with it, but there's not something that I can really point to and go, oh, these guys are playing so great right now. But some things did stand out. I think the diversity of different roles that have been carrying games today was pretty interesting. It pointed out that in the written version that there are the 3 highest DPMs on the day came from Karzi in the bot lane, Wei in the jungle, and Robo in the top lane. So the 3 highest DPMs didn't even include a mid laner. Pretty interesting. There are a lot of different kind of styles of champions being picked in the different roles right now, and that's kind of fun to see. There are a few players that I thought stood up for kind of the wrong reasons, unfortunately, and I don't want to, I'm not here to harp on the negativity on it, but it's something that does create storylines for the rest of the tournament. Fudge was one of them, first game of the day. When you look at Fudge's kind of trajectory this year on the whole, he came into the LCS and the lock-in tournament and the start of Spring Split and had some really big struggling performances where it just looked like he was a bit of a fish out of water, and I think we saw that kind of thing from him today. He just got destroyed in lane by Khan on Khan's Gnar, lost his turret, led to a lot of lost map control that snowballed into other effects. C9 still had a chance to win that game, and I think that's the positive side of all this, is that even with kind of a really poor individual performance from Fudge that he's going to be looking to improve on, and to be very clear, I think he's absolutely capable of improving on that. I think he's a much better player than he showed today, and just needs kind of time to kind of get his feet under him and show that version of himself. But even with Fudge struggling that hard, Cloud9 showed a lot of good things. Their bottom lane performed really well. I thought Perkz had some positive moments. Their team comp had them in a position where this was a winnable game. And you saw that there were these 5v5 setups where they were able to kind of resist the pressure from Damwon, turn things back on them. And if they had been able to focus more on that part of the game, I think they had a chance to win today against Damwon, which a lot of people wouldn't have expected them to have any chance to win. So there are positives to take away from it, but Fudge definitely needs to kind of find his comfort zone and find it quickly, because this is not a long tournament. He doesn't have 2.5 months to figure it out. I thought Arya had some interesting things. They're doing media scrums. You can request one-on-one interviews with the players, but they're also having just a couple of players per day that everybody can submit questions to and see open access, and that's a little bit easier for me to contribute to right now. Arya from Dead FM was one of the players who did one of those, and he was asked some questions about kind of himself and where he stacks up internationally, and he took a very self-deprecating approach that I thought was kind of interesting to see, and how he thought that there were a lot of other mid laners in the event that were way stronger than him, and that he thought of himself as the weakest mid laner at the whole tournament. And I think that's an interesting thing to hear, because you can get these personalities of the players that can swing very hard in either direction, of either like trying to undersell themselves a lot, which I hope that's just the way he thinks is like respectful to communicate, and not actually what he thinks of himself, because I've heard a lot of people feeling very highly about him and thinking very highly of him. And you can go too far in the other direction and project this bravado that you can beat anybody on any given day, which there are pros and cons to both, I think. But I hope that Arya has some confidence in himself, and I'm looking forward to seeing him put on some good showings. I think there was also a scrum with Kaiwing from PSG Talon, and he had some comments. I think today was kind of like the C9 example. PSG had some situations in this game where it looked like they were going to be in a position to take down Mad Lions, and actually I thought they played pretty decently on the whole. Their level 1 had them in this massive lead, but it's just simple individual mistakes from Doggo in this case, similar to what Fudge and Cloud9, in getting caught in the river, in a moment where just being more conservative would have allowed River, the player River, not the part of the map River, to extend his pathing lead and get this giant advantage. But he put himself in a bad position, and Mad Lions jumped on that. And then later there was a team fight that PSG Talon could have won if Doggo had been in a position to just follow up on kind of the re-engage that had been set up by a big Gnar ult, but he had moved to hit the wave instead of letting that mid lane priority. Like, mid lane priority is really important, and I think players get this drilled into them, and they just, going into a dragon setup or a baron setup, they just think, gotta clear the mid wave, clear it first, move for advantage. But there's a point at which you let that mid priority go and say, now is the time we commit to our positioning for the fight. And he just didn't move with the rest of the team. And that's the kind of thing that you're going to get from a sub, that those comms aren't quite there, that like, this is the moment when we as a team are ready to let that wave go and hit our tower, and we're going to lose that CS, and that's okay, because we're about to take the team fight. And he got stuck and lost the fight, and that kind of ended the game. And it was a chance. It was very much a chance for them to come back and win a team fight and be back in the game. So it was unfortunate to see that, but on the whole, I thought PSG Talon looked pretty reasonable, and I'm looking forward to seeing them play well the rest of the tournament. And Kaiwing had some claims in the scrum afterwards, or some statements about kind of the relevance of PCS compared to the major regions, and thought they weren't far off of being kind of still in that conversation. And I think the way they played today does bear that out. I think the meta was another thing that was obviously interesting the first day of the tournament, when it's been a couple of patches since we've seen anyone playing pro at this level. We saw a lot of consensus kind of bans and early picks on Rumble, Lee Sin, Morgana. There's also things like, those have been discussed a lot, but I think Zoe, Varus, Nocturne, Jace were also very high up there. And then Gnar was also in 5 of the 6 games and went 4-1. Won his first 4 games. So it's really interesting to see what's happening with that. I'm curious whether teams will start letting more of those OP picks through, or at least perceived OP picks, and start to trade them back and forth. And especially on the red side, if you can get, if there are 3 OPs left up and you get 2 of them and they get 1, that's a kind of a classic thing to do in a meta where there are kind of champions in a very clear tier above the rest of the picks. So fun to see so far. We'll see how it plays out. Those are kind of my big takeaways from the first day. And again, you can get kind of a written version of that and recaps of each game on the website. And if you missed the news post today on Oracle's Elixir, you can go to that. And as long as you've created a user account, you can watch the live stats of the games, which now have win probabilities that are updating, live with the game being played. So it's just a fun way to interact with the game and see kind of who's favored. We had a comeback from a 7%, I think was the most extreme it got, that they were only 7% chance to win, and they came back, won the whole game. So, don't take these as anything over 90 and the game's literally over, because it's not. But it does show kind of the size of an advantage, and it can be a fun thing to interact with and kind of enjoy watching. And I just think the technology that behind it was really cool. It was a lot of fun to build. So check that out. I'm going to keep trying to refine it and improve the model that is underlying it with the data available. So I hope you enjoy that feature and enjoy the daily recaps. And I'll be doing this every day going forward for the rest of the tournament.